Hey, good evening. Kathy Beatty here with Divorce Support Anonymous. Thank you for joining me this evening, Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as I jump into your life and hopefully make a difference, give you a thought, give you hope, give you encouragement, let you know that you're going to make it through the trauma of divorce. As we go through divorce, we are all in many different stages. And for each stage, I have written a book. And I don't talk about my books quite enough, actually, because they are resources that can be very, very helpful. This first one is really going to Rebuilding Your Life After Divorce is going to get you through the divorce itself. It tells my story. It also guides you in many different principles to help you through divorce. The next, because I developed this, which was once a course called Redesign Your Life, because after we go through divorce, we get through the grief, the process, it's final, and then we look around and we say, now what? How do I build a future? And that's what this book is all about, building your future after divorce. And then the first year after divorce is a year of firsts, and it is critically important year in the decisions that we make and our thought processes during that time. So this book, whoops, wrong one. This one is a journal of processing your first year after divorce, because so many important decisions are being made. So those are some resources that I have for you. So a few other comments. First of all, of course, you can ask questions, add comments. You can text me at that phone number, or if you have an in-depth story, give me a call. A few other announcements I do want to make is that September 14th, if you are in the Grand Rapids area, a support group begins, and that will be held at Keystone Community Church in Ada, which is just outside of Grand Rapids. And we will begin a 10-week session of helping you get through the rawness, the toughness, the decisions, the emotions, the acceptance, the moving forward of divorce. And if you're not in the Grand Rapids area, or you prefer not to attend in person, you kind of like the virtual thing, we're also doing one September 15th. A support group is going to start. And so you can connect with me. I will get you a registration form and we will send that out to you. And we will get your healing started. Now, many times I spend a lot of my time with those of you in this stage, just going through the divorce. Tonight, I want to speak to those of you who are working on building your future. You're in the second stage. And every stage is important. But I love this stage because it is so painful, but it's also so powerful, because you are going to make the decisions that are going to impact the rest of your life. And it's very easy to just skim through this stage and decide, okay, I need the next relationship to heal me and to make everything better. And then what you will find if you have that mentality is you're going to get into some real complicated issues because you're not healed. And so it's very, very 99.9% impossible for you to get into a healthy relationship when you yourself are not healed. You want a rescuer. You want someone to make it right. The only rescuer there is God. The only savior there is Jesus Christ. And he longs to enter into this space of creating that new and that beautiful future. But one of the things we must do if we want to optimize and use this time to its fullest is we must work on our own healing. And that healing is not just from the divorce. If we will be totally honest with ourselves, the healing goes far back into our past. You see, we brought a lot of stuff into our marriage that impacted our marriage, maybe even hurt our marriage, perhaps even destroyed our marriage. So I want to talk tonight about healing your future. and how that requires for you to heal your past. To be honest, to do the inner work of looking at our past and where are those hurts that I have carried into the marriage, that I have carried into my life. And so what inspired me to talk about this topic is a story that was posted on, I believe it was Dr. Henry Cloud's Boundaries page. And I asked for permission to use this story because I found it very profound. And for those of you who are willing and ready to explore and discover the true healing for yourself, your mind, your heart, your soul, it requires that we go back and we look at the past. Now, there will be a few of you who will poo-poo this and say, no, I just want to move forward. I just want to go on. I promise you, you are carrying things from your past into your future if you do not deal with them honestly. And some of them are not easy to deal with. Some will take therapy, just like Megan, the story I'm going to read to you, went through therapy to get to the bottom of her healing and found it happened in her past. And the result was her self-discovery of that which was hurting her life all along that she didn't realize. Notice she did it in therapy. She didn't do it on her own. And I know God can reveal a lot to us if we are open in front of him, but God gives us other people and community for us to learn things about ourselves, about other people that are so critically important. So I want to read to you this story about Megan. It's a page, but I'm begging your patience to listen to her story because you may just find a glimmer of your story within it. This is Megan's. I had a major breakthrough in therapy today, and I wanted to share it in case it blesses or encourages someone here. I identified an early experience that shaped my codependency. My parents had hosted a meal for a well-known child trainer author, Mike Pearl, when he did an event in our area. When we sat down for the meal, my younger sister stated she wanted the stool that I was sitting on. It was the favorite seat at the time. I didn't want to switch chairs. I know that was unusual for me, but it was also in my small way of standing up for myself, and I stated I simply wanted to sit on the stool for once. My younger sister, threw a fit, and Mike proceeded to help my parents train my sister by spending what felt like an eternity spanking her. Every time they would come out of the bathroom after spanking her and she refused to apologize, they would go back in and do it all over again. For the rest of my life, I have carried that memory around, feeling like it was my fault, that my sister's pain was my fault. And though I clearly remember begging my parents to stop and just let her have the seat, no, Mike wanted to make an example out of her, and he did. The result of this episode. I never wanted to stand up for myself again, for fear it would end up hurting someone else. Today, I realized it wasn't my fault. My parents chose to listen to the instructions they were given as an attempt to break my sister's spirit, which I now recognize as abuse. Healthy boundaries were not being taught, and something far less brutal could have been used to teach my sister healthy emotional management and consequences for actions, choices, without a half an hour plus of spanking and an attempt to break her spirit. Mike chose to instruct my parents to abuse my sister, and they chose to listen to him. It was not my fault. Learning what we are and aren't responsible for is so freeing. Ooh, I can't read that without having a lot of emotions. A lot of emotions toward the ignorant teacher, the ignorant parents, the abuse of a child, the misconceptions about training children, the sympathy and heartache for Megan, who took on all of this burden and responsibility and blame that was not hers. Wow. Can you relate at all? Maybe not codependency, but in some area of your past. And discovering that is not easy. Notice, Megan had been in therapy. She needed someone else to guide her through this because it was not an easy discovery. It was hard work. And yet, now Megan begins a journey of being free, and realizing she doesn't have to be codependent anymore. She doesn't have to make sure that she is responsible for everyone else's actions or their feelings. Codependency is only one of the things in our past that we learned, whether by an abusive situation or a misunderstanding or whatever, but we as children have drawn these lifetime conclusions from one incident, two incidents, or a pattern of incidents. Would you be brave enough to work on this truth so that you could find the freedom that Megan is? I don't know what your issue is that you may need to discover more. Is it codependency? Is it anger? Because there's been this injustice of the past that you need to deal with. Is it control? Do you feel this anxiety if you're not in control? Why? What happened and where did you learn that? What about fearful? Living in fear? What were those past traumas that created in you this fear that you carry into adulthood? Negativity of always seeing the glass as half empty. What traits that are hurting you are due to past hurts? It's a very important question. Because don't think with the end of that relationship that your issues and those traits are going to stop there. They won't. They will continue. Can we help ourselves by identifying their origin and understanding where this all started, where it came from? How do we begin the healing of our past? First, we must be open to the discovery. I remember at Single Moms Camp, I had a counselor who was working with me in leading these women by the name of Carolyn, a wonderful Christian woman. And we talked about grief and how to grieve. And she held this beautiful prayer session, allowing us to identify, to discover where that painful point is that we need to grieve. Would you be open to the discovery of it? the discovery of those places in your past that have hurt you. Not to just discover it, but to understand that's why. That's why I'm codependent. That's why I'm fearful. That's why I'm so controlling. There are reasons. There are reasons. Number 2, tell your story. Whether that's in journaling, whether that's with a therapist, a support group, a friend. You need to tell that story. And then finally, replace with specifics. Don't just say, I want to replace my anger with being happy. No, I want to replace my angry outburst to my child with questions and curiosity. And then you pose those questions. There's lots of detail that we're not going to get into tonight, but you do want to replace. And I would ask you also to invite the Spirit of God into this discovery, into this acknowledgement and telling the story. Tell Him, first of all. Tell Him. Write it out. Read it to God the Father, who longs for you to be healed and free. God longs for you to be healed and to be free. Healing your future requires that you heal your past. It's hard work. It's not easy. And yet, it helps you to heal the past so you can begin to build that beautiful and bright future that God longs for you to have. He is for you. He wants good things for you. He has a plan for you. Thanks for being here tonight. If you take this to heart, I promise you it will make a difference in your life. This is Kathy Beatty, Divorce Support Anonymous. Good evening.